What's going on, Babylonians? It's me, Songs of Rays, and I'm back on the channel bringing some more of the finals guides towards you. Now, today's video, we're going to be discussing similar to like how we did the light class. We're going to be looking at all the weapons available for the medium class, and we're going to be discussing and ranking them from 6 all the way down to number 1, and number 1 is an absolute doozy. It pretty much should be the main gun that most people are rocking, and the main reason is we're going to be looking at time to kill, we're going to be looking at versatility, we're going to be looking at a range of things, so this is pretty much going to be the definitive tier list. Now, I do welcome anyone in the comments section to be able to let me know what their kind of ranking is. If I've got any of this wrong, would they prefer if something was swapped around? I would love to be able to see all of that down below in the comment section down, and I will just have like that discussion back and forth with you. With all that said and done, if you do enjoy this type of content and you want to see more from ourselves when it comes to the finals, because there will be plenty more coming to the channel, then make sure to drop that like and subscribe. With all that said and done, what are we waiting for? Let's dive into number 6, and this is going to be the Riot Shield. Now, the Riot Shield is going to have a number of factors that kind of holds it back. The main thing is obviously it is a melee weapon, which means that it does have some very kind of limiting range. It means that you can't like attack this heavy that's right here. You can't attack that medium that's right there, and they will be able to ping you for like some decent damage while you're just pretty much trying to get in close. Now, to be fair, in the defense of the Riot Shield, you do have the shield itself, which will mean that you're able to block some fire. So if we head over to this section over here, which is where we're going to be able to have the dummies that are going to be shooting, what you can actually do is stand here, and this will start blocking some of the shots that the dummy will start shooting. So if we do that, we get them to lock on. They can't do anything because I am behind the shield, and because of that, it's just they just can't do anything. There's no pathing, and that's because they can't shoot this dummy that's behind them as well. So we do have that to worry about, and you know, the Riot Shield is pretty good for that. It's great for being able to do a push. It does slow you down considerably, so if they do turn tail, if they do try and run away from you, they will be able to do that. You won't be able to effectively follow them unless you put your shield away, and then that means that you're just going to have to start sprinting towards them. So how does the Riot Shield perform in terms of damage? Well, so obviously we've got the utility, we've got the ways of being able to become impervious from the front. So what can we do damage-wise? Well, when it comes to a heavy, we do have a very slow time to kill. This actually works out to be the 3rd slowest thing in the whole game in being able to take down a heavy class, clocking in at around about 2.8 seconds. So you will take a long time to be able to start wiping this heavy off the face of the earth. So you don't really have anything to kind of like help you out when you do get up close. You have something to help you get into that distance, which is great. You've got a way to be able to push into an objective. Absolutely awesome. This shield is probably the best part about the actual thing in of itself. But when it comes to the damage side of things, you are going to be absolutely hindered when it comes to this, and you're going to need to rely on your utility. Now, the problem with that is that the medium class has some really good utility, and it does have a lot of things that kind of vie for these spots. Most of the time it's defibs. Defibs will pretty much almost always be a common staple when it comes to ranked as well as casual play. But obviously things like gas mines or gas grenades, we have sonar grenades which help you out the rest of the team. There's not much that's going to help you out in terms of being able to deal that damage, and if you are, then it means that you're sacrificing support for the rest of your team. So because of this, because the Riot Shield doesn't really help us out in DPS, it doesn't really help us with being able to push an objective, because we'd have to put it away ready to be able to start like claiming the cash box and things like that. It just doesn't do enough as an actual weapon for me to justify that it gets higher up on the list. So the slow time to kill, middling kind of versatility, and the fact that it does take away some of your utility for your rest of your team, the Riot Shield just has to kind of like take last place for me. So we go from a melee weapon all the way to something that's even more explosive, and this is where we're going to have a look at the CL40 grenade launcher. Now, this one's a lot of fun. This is a decent one to mess around with, mainly because this does have more utility compared to some of the other bullet kind of weapons, because you can use this as destruction. Now, I believe it takes around about 6 to 8 grenades, I can't remember which one it is, to be able to blow a hole in a wall. But the real fun part about the CL40, and one that differs away from other grenade launchers that we get for like the heavy class, is that this is explode on impact. So we're able to use this, and we're able to do direct impact to targets, so obviously we can use this to be able to do some nice chunky damage. Now, interestingly, there's different ways that you can use the CL40. What I've noticed out of this actual gun is if we just finish off this heavy class, so you'll notice on that previous heavy that we did actually take them down in 5 shots, but this is where some inconsistency does kind of come into play, because if you aim towards the feet area, and then you're able to get the kill within 4 shots. So weirdly, it kind of depends on where you aim this gun as to how effective this is going to be. And obviously, you know, it is a projectile. It does have some travel speed. It's really nice that it does have the nice explosion radius. I think it works out to be around about 2 or 3 meters of explosive radius. So these two light classes that are stood together, you can hit the one and you will hit the other one. Obviously, it's not going to carry all the damage through to that second target, but it's going to do more than enough to make them feel weak. They might back off, or it makes it so that your teammates, if they've done any kind of residual damage, it's going to help you out with the mopping up of them as well. So you really need to kind of like get good with the CL40 to really kind of maximize how you're going to get this one out, because if you're aiming for anywhere upper chest, you might be actually doing less damage than you're intending to do, especially when it comes to heavies. But this one is great for being able to clear out rooms. This is great for being able to help you start making holes into walls so you can start pushing out in a different way, and that means it frees up some of your utility so you can use it for other things to help out the rest of your team. Overall, the CL40 is not a bad gun. It just kind of suffers from its low fire rate and from its middling kind of damage, especially when it comes to like a heavy target. But this one's not really kind of like dedicated to being like a pure DPS kind of cannon or anything like that. It's supposed to have a little bit more use to it. It's supposed to have a little bit more kind of like versatility, a little bit more utility to it, rather than it just purely being a case of this is the amount of damage and this is how many shots it kind of takes down a target. So because of that, and because of the other options that the medium does have access to, especially when it comes to team fights, which is the main bread and butter of the finals, I do have to put them down at the number 5 spot. But overall, I do enjoy what this gun brings to the table. It just doesn't do anything as much when it comes to the damage department, which is what we're intending for the weapon to do. So now this brings us on to the 4 actual bullet weapons, the main ones, the main kind of focus when it comes to the medium class. And the first one we're going to have a look at is going to be the Model 1887. Now, I do really enjoy this shotgun. I do want to make a point right now. I love how this shotgun performs. It's essentially a shotgun that performs well at medium range rather than at close range. It really does extend like how far you can actually use to be able to dedicate some of these shots. So you can actually, like I said, look at this range for a shotgun as well. We're able to like 2-shot some light classes. We're able to 3-shot a heavy, as long as you're able to land those shots. It's a really good powerhouse. It's a really good weapon to be able to use, and it does kind of translate into the TTKs. Now, unfortunately, with 3 shots, this does work out to be around about a 1.5 second kill on a heavy class. But if, like for example, when it comes to like this, when we talked about the sniper, if you're dipping in and out of cover, if you're using this to be able to pepper someone, get yourself behind cover, pepper someone, get yourself behind cover, and just to kind of like handle it that way, this gun is actually a really good one to be able to use. And because it is a shotgun and because it has some really nice range, you can combine this with some really nice stuff, especially with some grenades, especially with some kind of like ways of being able to have some movement. The Model 1887 is definitely as like run-of-the-mill, like a really decent gun to be able to use, and it's not a bad option to use at all. That being said, the 1887 doesn't pack as much of a punch as the other 3 guns that we're going to be discussing on this list, so while I do really enjoy how this gun performs, and while I do think it is a really good weapon for the medium class, it just kind of has to come in at the number 4 spot because everything else kind of kills a little bit faster. So just keep that in mind. The 1887 is definitely decent. Feel free to be able to pick this up, but as it currently stands, it's just not the main kind of focus of the medium class. And if you're looking for something to have a better time to kill, to be able to help you out in team fights, then you're definitely going to want to pick up something else. So coming in at the number 3 spot, I'm going to be putting the R357. Now, technically, this is the best heavy killer weapon that the medium class can bring into the game. The only reason why is because, obviously, with headshots and because of how fast this gun fires, it's just a crazy time to kill. This thing deletes in around about 700 milliseconds, and while there are a couple of other guns which we will be discussing very, very shortly that are able to keep relatively consistent with that, the R357 is definitely punished if you start going for body shots. As soon as you start landing body shots, this thing just kind of falls off a little bit, especially compared to things like headshots and everything like that. So the R357, I believe, has around about a 2x multiplier when it comes to headshots, so therefore it just kind of is one of those, similar to like how the LH1 was all about landing those headshots and being about precision and everything. The R357 is exactly the same. So what makes the R357 so good? Well, this thing is an absolute beast of being able to take light classes because it is a one-hit headshot. This thing instantly deletes light classes off the face of the earth. This thing is an absolute monster, and it does something very similar compared to the medium classes because this is a 2-shot headshot. So this thing just pretty much decimates 2 out of the 3 classes that are pretty much on the field. Now, technically, it also decimates the 3rd, because, like I said, you know, 3 headshots to a heavy is not too difficult considering how their movement abilities are a little bit on the slow side. It's definitely a possibility, and because of like the accuracy of this gun, it has no recoil. It is literally just in the same spot every single time, and it just fully recenters every single time as well. So if you miss, it's your own fault. If you're like, you've got to factor in being able to hit that head. But if you are aiming aiming for headshots, this is definitely one of the best guns that exists in the whole game, especially against light classes and especially against medium classes as well. So why couldn't I rank this higher if it has the one of the best performances when it comes to headshots? Well, that's because it has that inconsistency. If you aren't aiming for heads, if you do manage to start mixing in some body shots, the time to kill on this will start dipping down quite massively, and that's where the other two guns actually have that versatility. They can be changed up on the fly. They have the ability to be able to go toe-to-toe with close range as well as long range. So the R357, you will be reloading very, very often with this, just due to the fact it only has 6 bullets before a reload. So because of that, because of a couple of contributing factors, I think it has to take the number 3 spot. But don't get me wrong, I absolutely love this gun. I genuinely think it's a very, very strong gun. The only reason the other two are higher is because they're just easier to use. So coming in at the runner-up spot, and yes, I can already hear you in the comment section right now just telling me how wrong I am, but I am going to put the AKM in the second spot. Now, the reason why I've done this is it's going to become a little bit more apparent if we start having a look at TTKs, and that's because if we put this up against our number 1 spot, this one loses every single time. So if we are looking at body shots, the AKM compared to this has a 200 millisecond loss compared to our number 1 spot when it comes to taking on heavy targets, and then when it comes to being able to land those headshots, we're looking at around about a 140 millisecond kind of difference. So, you know, it's not like massive amounts of time or anything like that, but it is enough to be able to use it in a competitive environment, and that's what just means that the number 1 spot is just going to win every single time if you put these in a pure head-to-head. Now, that's not to say that the AKM doesn't have any redeeming qualities or anything like that. The AKM is absolutely amazing for the fact it has 36 bullets in its magazine. On top of that, it also has very clean iron sights. Obviously, you know, the kick on this can be a little bit crazy, especially at range. But you know, it's relatively clean when it comes to those kind of iron sights. You definitely can aim with this. It's not a difficult weapon to be able to use. Now, would it be nicer if it had something like a red dot sight? 100%. But being able to have 36 bullets, which means that you can actually miss a few shots and then go straight back to your target, and you don't really have to worry about popping a reload or something like that, you know, it definitely helps out and it definitely plays in the AKM's favour. So if we were to have a look at the recoil plot for the AKM, you can see how this one just kind of snakes its way around. And it gets to a point and then it just starts becoming really, really close altogether. So you need to just worry about this first bit here, and then it just becomes vertical and then just pulls itself over to the left. Now, I would say it's not the easiest recoil plot to be able to get under control, but I would say that it's manageable because you can just do things like that. And that heavy is just pretty much disappeared. So if you can get good with the AKM, you'll do very, very well with the finals. And it means that you don't necessarily need to unlock the number 1, but there's a reason why we've got number 1, and number 1 is going to the FCAR. So, of course, coming in at the number 1 spot, that's going to be the FCAR. Now, the reason why this one is coming in here is just kind of easy to be able to see. When it comes to a competitive nature, TTK is going to be king, and I do think the FCAR has the best kind of stats across the board when it comes to the medium class. Now, the main reason for that is when it comes to body shots, the FCAR has the best, bar none, when it comes to the medium class type weapons anyway, being able to absolutely down an enemy. It's just kind of easy controllable recoil. It has that nice picture, it has that nice holographic sight on top of it. You can just pretty much get enemies dumpstered with this. So typically just over 1 second with the FCAR when it comes to body shots. And of course, if you're then able to land some headshots, this goes down all the way to 736 milliseconds, which is kind of crazy for a heavy. It works out to be one of the better kind of weapons. Definitely in the top half, definitely within maybe even close to the top quarter, being able to be like weapons across everything. That includes the light category as well. The FCAR is definitely a worthwhile gun to be able to use, and just being able to have it for its range properties as well. So we've got, you know, we're able to take out medium classes from there. Being able to take out light classes as simply as that is really nice, and the reload is relatively quick. Now, you will be reloading a lot with this gun. Being able to have 20 bullets in the magazine is definitely a detriment that goes against the FCAR, and it means that you have to go for that accuracy. Fortunately, that's where this gun's strong suit kind of comes in, because ever since the last beta, the patch notes released saying that this has now got easier recoil to be able to control, and that's perfect. We need more of like a beamer kind of assault rifle, and it just has the damage profile, it has the range profile, it has the accuracy profile to take this very, very far in the finals. So if we have a look at the recoil plot on this one, then you can see just basically how this one kicks. and it's just this initial jump that is just kind of like a little bit uncontrollable. But after a certain amount, it just becomes so easy to be able to control, and all of those are tightly grouped together. It is just one single line. You can see that if we go all the way back here, that it just becomes one single line all the way up there. Those are all closely together, so that just means that you can just start absolutely beaming down targets. And as long as you're able to play this sensibly, as long as you play this behind some cover, you can just pretty much start wasting away some enemies. So it's because of that reason, because of the killing potential, because of the recoil management, because of everything that all combines together. That's the reason why I think the FCAR is the best medium weapon that currently exists in the game. But feel free to let me know in the comment section down below, what do you think? Do you agree with my list? Do you think that I've probably got something wrong? Do you think I've got it in the wrong order? Do you think that the AKM should have been top of this list? Let me know all that down below in the comment section, and I'd love to have that discussion with you. Massive thank you for making your way to the end of the video. Massive thank you to the Babylonian family, as always, for their continued support. It really does help the channel out. And of course, if you want to see more of the finals content from ourselves, make sure to drop that like and subscribe so you can find your way back to the channel. With all that said and done, that just leaves me to say, keep yourself safe, keep yourselves well, and I'll see you all on the next video.